Welcome back to the Irresistible You podcast. This is the 10 pounds, 10 times series. Okay, guys, I am back this week with my results, with my weigh-in, and a couple little just inspirational nuggets that I will share of lessons learned. So last week, my weigh-in was 223.7. And this week on the scale, my weight is 224. So we had a gain. Now, in all reality, it's a couple of ounces, right? But nonetheless, it's not down, it's up a little. And I am here to share with you the good, the bad, and all the in between, because you're not always going to have weeks where you are just killing it and the weight's coming off. You're going to have stall weeks. You're going to have gain weeks. And I want you to understand that all of those results are normal and part of this journey. And I was noticing this week that I felt hungrier than usual. I was having cravings that like I was mentioning last week, I've not been having as many cravings since I went on the Tirzepatide injections. And sure enough, next day I woke up and period was here. So, I kind of had lost track of the time in terms of that. And I was like, oh yeah, you're not a psychotic bitch. You're just PMSing. You are fine. This is why you are craving everything in sight. So I know that the gain has to do with, I know I ate more than I was supposed to with some of the cravings. And, with period time, you tend to hold water, you tend to gain weight, bloating, yada, yada, yada. We all know that. So I'm going to just take that with a grain of salt and know that things will be back on track this following week. And the weight loss journey. So I had this moment this morning where if you're anywhere like me, it's been really cold. Most places in the States, for the most part, unless you're in like southern Florida, it's really cold. And so I did this. Me and the kids did a science experiment. We put cups of water out overnight so we could see, how it turned to ice. And it got some discussion going with Kat on the way to school, and she was asking certain things about, matter and how water turns to ice and such and such. And I had this aha moment because she's like, we should put a camera outside so we can watch the water turn to ice. And I said, that's a cool idea. I said, but we probably, if we do that, we need to do like a hyperlapse video where it's going to go really, really fast when we play it back. And she's like, why? I'm like, well, because if you sat there overnight and filmed water turning to ice for 10 hours, I said it would be a really boring video and you wouldn't really see much happening in those, you wouldn't see much happening in real time. And I had this epiphany, this aha moment as it relates to weight loss, because I feel like it's the same way. In real time, weight loss can be very slow. It can be very boring. It can be very monotonous. It can feel like nothing is happening. It can feel like nothing is happening when you're doing it in real time, day to day, week to week. Just like if you were to film water turning into ice, it would be extremely boring to watch that process. But if you put it on like a super hyperlapse video and it's going really, really fast and you're like seeing the crystal, like the ice turning into crystals and the crystals getting hard and then this big piece of ice forming, that's really interesting. That's really like eye-catching. That's something that you really want to watch. And then you see, oh my gosh, look at these changes. It's the same thing with weight. If we were to hyperlapse January to December of our weight loss journey, it's going to be impressive. It's going to be like, wow, I did that. I lost the weight. The pounds were coming off. It was so easy. But if you're in real time going through it, that's not always the case, right? It is a very boring, monotonous process that can feel like you're not having momentum all the time. You don't always see the momentum until you reflect back on where you were. So that was just like a really like an aha moment that I had. And I wanted to share that with you to keep you going, to keep you just don't give up. Like, even when the scale goes up, the scale stays the same. You have to keep going. And like I shared with you last week, because I haven't been tracking my food, because quite frankly, I really dislike having to bust out my phone, write everything down, take pictures, whatever. Like, I know it's not that hard. I know it's very easy. It's just becomes one more thing, and I've been fighting against it really hard. However, the thing is now, I don't have data to realistically say, okay, yeah, you went up last week because you ate such and such and such and such. Like, I don't have the information. And we only remember a part of the story. I talked about that in last week's 10 pounds, 10 times. We only remember part of the story. But here's the good news. I'm still in the safe zone. So I call the safe zone. So, 10 pounds, 10 times. We're looking at things as decades. And when you first get into a new decade, let's say when I first get into the 220s and you're like 229, well, then your period comes and you're 230. Or, you eat high sodium and you're at 227, but tomorrow you're 230. You keep bouncing, like you keep doing the bounce back. I call it like the bounce back between decades. And then you get to the safe zone, which is like the 224, the 224, the 225, or, whatever decade you're in, that 4 and 5 range. And when you're in that range, I call it the safe zone, because even if I go up 4 or 5 pounds, I'm still in the same decade. So that's the good news, is that I'm closer to 220 than I am to 230. We're going to get there. We're going to see the 219 by the end of January. It's going to happen. And so this week, I will drag my feet. I'm going to drag my feet to whip out my phone and put my food in there. Like, to just be more aware of what I am doing so that I can then make decisions. Because a lot of times too, when you don't track, it doesn't count, right? That little extra this while you're cooking, or a little extra that, oh, it doesn't count because I'm, so I know that I have to do that in order to be able to make decisions, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because next week when I come back here, I want to see the number go down. So that's it. That's my weigh in for the week. That's my 10 pounds, 10 times. Let me know how you guys are doing over on Instagram. You can DM me at Irresistible Icing. Let me know what your goals are, what you're working on, what you're struggling with, and we're going to knock this journey out together. So, all right. If you haven't already, also make sure to check out this week's core episode, which I put out. It's episode 202. So definitely go and check that out if you haven't listened to it already. I'm going to catch you guys in the next episode. Until then, stay irresistible. Bye, guys.